One thing in Rust that's great is the built-in support for unit testing. So let's take a look at how that works. So here is my greetings library. And let's suppose that right inside the library, I also want to perform a couple of tests to make sure that the library is functioning correctly. Now, in order to test this, I can make functions which actually perform assertions on the result. So for example, I can make a function that the English greeting should be correct. So I'll call this function English greeting correct. And inside this function, I can actually assert, so there are special assert macros like assert equals, for example. I can assert that hello happens to be the thing that you get if you run greetings English hello. So I'll call greetings English hello, like so. Now, in order to run this test, you would add a special test attribute like this, a sharp symbol and then the word test. So then what happens inside the actual phrases project is we can cargo build it like so, just to make sure that it compiles. And then there is another command called cargo test, which actually runs the test. So as you can see, it also compiles the project, and then it looks for all the functions which are marked with this test attribute, and it actually executes them and performs the assertion. So here my test passes because hello is in fact what the function gets. However, if I break it, for example, by adding some spurious symbols here, and I run cargo test one more time, then you're going to see that the test actually failed, and it tells you where it failed because, well, it was expecting hello held DSO, and it got hello. Therefore, there is a mismatch, and it tells us that the test has failed. Similarly, if you want the test to fail, you can specify that the test should in fact fail, and you do this by making another attribute called should panic, like so. And in this case, you're saying that the failure of the test is an expected behavior. And in this case, if we run this, then as you'll see in a moment, the test does in fact pass because we're expecting the failure. You can also suppress a test temporarily by putting an ignore attribute in front. This basically makes sure that the test runner does not run this particular test. And this is how you work with tests. It's fairly simple. And one of the things you can do actually is you can set up the tests that we've currently put them inside lib.rs, but what you can do is you can be more sophisticated about this. So let's take a look at this. So we have the src folder where if I do the tree, you'll see that the src is where the greetings are, and that's where the english.rs file is and everything. We can also make another folder called tests, and we can actually make a lib.rs in there and have the tests in there. So let me show you how this would typically work. So let's notepad lib.rs. I'll create this new file, and we'll take some of the tests that we wrote and we'll sort of cut them out and put them in here. However, this is a different module, and there is a bit of a catch insofar as how to use the greetings module, because essentially what we're building now is kind of like a different crate. It's similar to the crate that you would have in an external setting. So effectively, we're going to have our own separate module called tests, and I'll put everything, all this testing file inside this. Inside the curly braces here, and I'm going to specify that I'm using an external crate called phrases, which the tests are going to consume, and I need the phrases prefix here. Or I could be using the use statement, but let's just do this. And also I'm going to specify that this is a particular configuration. So this is another attribute which lets you specify a configuration called test, like so. So after I save this, let's actually jump back into our console and let's cargo build once again. So essentially this builds just fine, and then let's do a cargo test. And as you can see, we're still ignoring our phrases test, but it's now in a separate module.